Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Colorado High Country Real Estate Podcast, where we talk all things real estate. And we also try to relate it back to our local markets to see what things might be unique and different in our markets versus other markets. But we're getting going today. We've got great guests for you today. We've got Mallory Ray from title company of the Rockies. But let's go ahead and get this thing kicked off. Rocky Mountain High, Colorado. Rocky Mountain High, Colorado. All right. So let's go ahead and bring in Mallory. We're going to add her. Here she is. Mallory Ray. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks for being here. We are going to talk all things title. You can see my little sign back here. It says extreme title because title's not really the most interesting or kind of sexy topic, is it?
It's definitely not that interesting. It's definitely not a sexy topic for sure. It's pretty
Yes.
boilerplate.
Yeah, but we're gonna try to make it extreme today. Um, so the very first thing I want to do, actually, Mallory, is I want to show you a quick video clip that I found on TikTok, and it was funny. I was looking around TikTok and some social media, and I was kind of trying to find some jokes or something funny about title. And there wasn't much. There isn't a lot of humor around it, but I did find a couple things. I want to play this one clip for you.
Gazy Fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust. It doesn't exist. It's never landed. It is no matter. It's not on the elemental chart. It's not fucking real. Right? Gazy Fugazi.
Okay, so the title of that clip was me explaining title to my clients, I think is what it said. But what do you make of that clip?
It's definitely a real thing. It's a pretty good clip, though. I definitely put some humor into the industry. Title insurance is definitely real. It's definitely important, and you should definitely have it. But I would definitely, as an agent, I would defer to your title company to people to explain it.
Okay, so I bought in several houses, and I'm in the real estate world, but honestly, I don't really know what title insurance is, what it covers, why we need it. So, can you just give us sort of a quick rundown of what is title insurance?
So, title insurance is basically an agreement between you and the title insurance company that you get the policy through, that they will cover you for any past defects on the land that your house sits on. So, you could never need it ever, but when you do need it, it becomes very important. It covers you for your insurer will fix the problem for you. They will defend you against it if it's something that you have to go to court for. They will pay you for it if it's something that you have monetary damages for. But it's one of those things that you're never going to need it. But then when you do need it, it's very, very important to have it because, like I said, they will help you through the process. They will guide you through the process. They all have lawyers that will go to court for you if you should need that. But it's definitely it's nothing you'll ever think about needing until something big arises.
Right. Well, kind of true for a lot of insurance, right? Um,
Right.
why do I need it? I mean, are there scenarios? How often does something come up where somebody needs their title insurance?
Um, it's not too terribly often. I would say probably 1 in 20 properties and 1 in 20 closings. Maybe you need to get a copy of it for something. The thing with it is though, is that it could cover unpaid real estate taxes. So if like you bought your property and the closing office or the title company didn't pay the taxes on it or something like that, and now you have a lien and you just found out about it and it's, a very expensive lien, and you could go back and file a claim with your insurance company and say, I have this lien filed against my property now. What's going on? And so the title insurance company from there is going to take it and they're going to go back to the title company to close the property for you. And they're going to try and get it paid. They're going to work on that for you so you don't have to go directly to the person you bought the house from. and do it yourself. So they're going to take that burden off of you.
Okay. Okay. And so how does title insurance work? I mean, I know when I've bought in houses before, it's basically kind of forced upon you. It's sort of a line on the financial contract. Um, but so tell us a little bit about maybe within the real estate world or the real estate contracts. I mean, why do we have to have title insurance?
Well, with the contract, it's something that you can negotiate whether the buyer will pay it, the seller will pay it, or you can split the cost of it, however you guys will choose. That's really up to how everybody wants to do it. But as far as why you need it, if you're buying a property as cash, I would definitely suggest having it because, like I said, it can cover things from errors in the legal description. And I mean, we're all human, we make mistakes. It could be a typo, it could be some small typo that maybe your lot was 47 and somebody typed in 48, and now you own a different property entirely. Um, or, like I talked about, real estate taxes, it could be, a host of issues. So, like in the scenario where you potentially own a different property now, it would protect you, and you could go back to the title company that closed it, and we would fix the deed for you. And if you were out, like if you're trying to sell your house, for instance, and you couldn't sell it now because you have this big error in your title, then you could be compensated for monetary damages and things like that. Um, but each company is a little bit different with how they do things. And we, Title Company of the Rockies, are an agency, so we can write on several different title insurance companies themselves. Typically, when we get a contract in from an agent, we'll look at the property, see where it is within the county, and then we will try and get you the best price for your property. And title insurance is very much so based off of the sales price of the property and the loan amount. But that being said, we can also do things like reissue rates. So if you've had title insurance within the last 5 years and you've refinanced or anything like that, we can do up to half off within 5 years. And that's what our underwriters allow us to do with the companies that we use. Um,
Okay.
so it could save the seller or buyer if they're paying for a lot of money, depending on what the sales price of the property is. Now, if you're buying a home and you're taking out a loan with a lender, the lender will require you as the buyer to purchase the title insurance policy for them. And that covers them in the event that they have to foreclose on the loan. So if they become the owner, that is now their title insurance policy as an owner.
So is that the difference between I was reading about owners' policies and lenders' policies?
Yes. So an owner's policy covers you as the owner, and it's based off of the purchase price of the property. So you're covered up to, if you buy $1 million house, you're covered up to $1 million. If you take out a loan, then the lenders, like I said, is going to make you buy it for them. And it's a condition of the loan for them to loan you the money. And then that is their policy, and it covers them up to the loan amount that they are giving you. But in the
And
event,
that's a separate policy then
yes.
than the one
So
I would have to buy as a buyer. I would also have to then purchase one for the lender.
yes, correct. Yep. And it's a
Okay.
requirement. They make you buy it for them as a requirement
Okay.
to give you the money.
And is there a term on like a term limit, like 1 year, 5 years or anything, or is the policy good as long as you own the property?
Your policy as an owner is good for the entire time that you own the property. A loan policy is good for as long as the lender is your lender. So if you refinance 5 years down the road, you're going to have to buy a new lender's policy for that lender. But as a buyer, it's a one-time premium. You pay it at closing. That's the only time you have to pay anything for it, and it covers you for the whole time that you own the property.
Okay. So you may have just touched on this. Um, so if you refinance and you now have a new lender, do you have to buy a new lender's policy for that lender, or does the previous one transfer?
No, you have to buy a new policy for that lender.
Okay. And that would just be worked up in all the closing documents and everything, correct?
Yeah, it
So
gets
what
rolled
what
right
ha-
into it.
sorry, what happens to the policy then that the original lender had? Does it just go away?
it goes away, it's voided, and it's gone from there because that
And
lender
there's
no longer
no,
that lender no longer has
but
an interest in the property.
okay. So, I just thought of something too. So sometimes, like, you get a mortgage and within 6 months, that mortgage is sold off to another mortgage company. Is that the same scenario where,
No.
no, it's not?
If your lender sells it to another lender, then it transfers to the next lender down the line from there.
Okay.
You only have to do a new one if you refinance. Like say you took a loan out with Wells Fargo originally, and now you're refinancing with First Bank. You would have to buy it for them with a
Okay.
new bank. But if they sell it, no, it transfers to the next owner.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So let's talk about, this is the Colorado High Country Real Estate Podcast. So how is title unique in the High Country um, versus other markets, or is there any uniqueness, or is it exactly the same, or do we have special considerations or things we need to think about when buying and selling in the High Country?
It's very different here. I spent the first 15 years of my career in Atlanta doing title work. And then I came here 2 years ago and fell in love with it. And now we live here. But it's very different. There's a lot of uniqueness with deed restrictions and housing programs that they do here. Just a lot of small things that I never thought that I would ever see because it just wasn't a thing in Georgia. But here, I work really, really closely with my title examiner. She's amazing. She basically runs the show and tells me everything that needs to be done for the closing. I have a lot of questions for her, a lot. Um, but it is unique in the housing programs and the deed restrictions and things that are done here because each different type of deed restriction within the county has a different requirement and a different person and a different entity that you have to go to fulfill all the requirements to get the closing done appropriately.
Okay. Okay. So as a title person working for a title company, and usually when people close on their house, they meet at the title company, right, to sign all the documents. Um, so it seems like there's more to title than just insurance. You guys are sort of preparing all the documents, and can you talk to that process a little bit as to what you guys do versus just selling insurance?
Yeah, so insurance is definitely a big thing with it, but the whole closing process is there's a whole lot going on the backside. So once you go under contract, the agents typically will send us a copy of the contract and we'll review it just to make sure there's nothing missing or that you need to add in there specifically for whatever market you're in that may have requirements. We'll double check spelling. We'll make sure the seller's names are appropriate and they match what the deed is where they took title. From there, we move everything to our title department, and that's where the exam happens. That's where our examiner, she's going into the deed records. She's making sure that everything is correct, everything lines up with the particular property that you're buying, that there's no liens, that there's, how many mortgages the seller might have, all of that information. And that's when we send out a commitment to everybody. The buyers, sellers, and both agents receive that. And that's our commitment to you that this is what we have to do in order to close on the property and issue clear title and insurance at the very end. Typically, it's like an HOA that we have to get a status letter for, or a payoff, or things like that. There's not really usually a whole lot to it. Typically, they're pretty clean. But on the backside of that, we also have a processor, and she's contacting your mortgage company. She's contacting your HOA, your water, your sewer, all of the utilities that we have to transfer at closing. She's getting status requests for that, payoffs, all the information, and all the numbers that you actually see on the closing statement itself. Um, my role, I do manage the Summit County offices, but I'm also a closer. So I will go in and I'm the one that prepares the settlement statement. I prepare all the documents themselves. I send it out to buyers, sellers, agents from there for their review, their approval, make sure everything looks clean on it, how everything's supposed to line up. And then from there, if you have a loan, I'll coordinate with the lender and get all of that information that they need to them and balance with their numbers and put everything on the settlement statement how they want. Um, The fun part is closing. Now, here it's very unique where most people don't come to closing. We probably
Okay.
do about 80% mail outs to people. Buyers are somewhere else, sellers are somewhere else. So we have tried to leverage technology and be able to send everything to everybody digitally. Lenders have not quite caught up to allowing us to do everything digitally. Some will, but some will not. If it's a cash closing, I'll send everything out to buyer sides through DocuSign, like our DocuSign program that we use. It's called Elsie, but it's basically the same thing. And then sellers, we can do a fully digital closing now, which is awesome. It's like the best thing ever. Um,
Yeah.
so I
Well, I
can,
was going to ask, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to ask because whenever you sign these closing documents, it's like a stack of paperwork like this thick. And you
yeah,
sit there for a half an hour just signing all these pieces of paper.
yeah.
But it sounds like with technology and things like that and actual regulations, sounds like they are allowing a lot more digital signing and things like that. So we're not killing the rainforest.
Yes, yes. We try and not kill as many trees as possible. But lenders, like I said, sometimes you just have to. If it's a lender that does require you to print everything off and send it out, we have like a mobile notary service that we can send out to people. They go to their house, sign everything, and then send it back to us from there. Um, Sellers, we can do most of the documents are done through DocuSign, and then we use a couple of different websites that we can send everything through. And you do like this site, you do a FaceTime call with a notary, they stamp everything for you, and it comes right back to me. So that way you don't have to print it, you don't have to go to a notary, you don't have to go to FedEx, send it back to me. And then God forbid it snows and 70 shuts down, and then we don't get documents back, and then the closing is ruined, and everybody's upset. So that the digital side of it is amazing. It's changed. Like I said, I've been doing this for 16 years, and we started on carbon paper,
Right.
and now
Here's your
we're
copy. Here's your
yeah,
copy. Right.
yeah. And if you mess up, you got to do it all over again.
Right.
Um, but now we can do it all online, and a seller can have their side of the closing done with a notary in about 10 minutes, and it's great.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the process is speeded up. It's been a little while since I've had to sign paperwork. But let's switch gears just a little bit. Do you have a funny story or uh, an anecdote of anything kind of related to title insurance? Something like here. Let me play a video. I got one more video clip for you. I'm going to play this video clip, and then we'll continue the conversation. So here we go.
You buy a piece of land. Do you own that piece of land all the way down to the center of the earth? Of course, you can build on top of the land. But how far can you go down that same piece of land?
Okay, so I don't know if you could hear that, but the guy was saying, when you buy a piece of land, do you own that land all the way down to the center of the earth? The reason I showed that video clip is just because it's sort of an example of maybe an odd question or something you guys might get. But first of all, maybe you can answer that question. But second of all, do you have any do you ever get funny things, people calling up with weird requests or funny questions?
So to answer your question, typically, no, you don't own down to the center of the earth. Um, you typically just own the dirt your house sits on. There are a lot of unique properties here that have mining claims or they had mining patents back in the early 1900s or late 1800s. Those are things that we can see with the title exam because our records go back as long as records go back for. We have
Okay.
microfilm that we can see like the super old deeds with. If your property had mining claims and stuff, we have people that we can refer you to that would uh, they'd be able to delve deeper into it for you and tell you what all it is. But
Okay.
yeah, if some of them might be like, if you ever find gold on your land, you owe it to this company that was defunct, like 100 years ago. So there's a lot of weird things with Summit County with that, just because of all the mining and everything that was done back in the day here. So typically, no, you just own the dirt that your house sits on.
Okay.
not
Okay.
anything below it. um, Funny stories though. The people are really nervous about wiring money, which I totally understand. Wire fraud is rampant. We will never, ever, ever wire you or email you wiring instructions. We use a company called Certified to send everything through.
Okay.
Um, it's like a two-factor authentication type thing, but people call all the time and they're like, "Are you real? Are you a real person? Are you a real company?" I'm like, yes, I'm real. Here's my address. I have brown hair. My kids go to school down the street. Like, we're real. So people call a lot about that just to verify and make sure we are who we say we are.
Right.
Uh, just really things like that. Those are the most often strange calls that we get.
Yeah. What about claims? Do you get involved on the claim side, or does that really just involve the insurance company themselves?
Um, I will get involved at the beginning of the process. I'm typically the one that finds out that there was a problem or there is a problem now. And then I kind of handle it on the front side of it. When you get a title insurance policy from the company, the jacket part of it, it has like boilerplate information on there. At the very end, it gives you a contact email and phone number of how to file a claim. And they do have people that will walk you through it. But I would definitely suggest reaching out to whoever did your closing for you initially and say, "This is our problem. We want to file a claim. Can you walk us through the process?" And honestly, probably 8 times out of 10, we can fix it on our end before it even gets to the point where you have to file a claim. Um, like
Okay.
not too long ago, I had a property that a husband and wife owned the property together, and the wife's interest was in a trust, and the husband's interest was individually. So the title was
Mm.
vested in wife trust, husband individually. And what happened was, and it's easy to do, it's human error. The signature line was missed in the husband's name individually. And now he signed
Mm.
as trustee of his wife's trust. So he signed once instead of twice. So something like that causes a big issue that people don't think about because now this guy still owns the property technically because he didn't sign out his interest. So this happened like years and years ago, and now they're trying to sell the property, and it's the problem because the title work was done still showing this guy. And so they reached out to me. I ended up having to find somebody that could go find this person for me. And they ended up finding him like that day. Like I had an address, I had phone numbers, but I couldn't get in touch with him at all. So I finally found like a process server, sent them to his house and I gave him a letter. I gave him a copy of the deed. I gave him all this information and it was like, please reach out to me so we can fix this. Well, he did, and he signed the deed that we had, and we recorded it the next day, and it was fixed. So things that can seem like a huge problem can typically be fixed at the title company side before they get to a claim point.
Okay. Okay. No, that's interesting. Um, One other question I wanted to bring up is you hear sometimes about these scams out there where somebody does some fake paperwork and they claim title to a property. Um, is that really happening out there? Is it widespread? And how do you deal with that?
It does happen, unfortunately. Digital documentation and digital recording has made it very easy for things like that to happen. It mostly happens on properties that don't have a loan on them, so they don't have a mortgage, and
Okay.
land, vacant land. It happens a lot with that. And it's typically
Okay.
properties like they try and sell them quickly, sell them quickly. Um, they're very pushy with how they try and come across to, we want to get this done and expedited fast.
All
And they're
right.
trying to sell it for a lot less than what the property is worth, just to make a quick buck.
Well,
And
but I'm sorry, how does that work though? So let's say I'm a bad guy and I want to try to claim a title to, let's say some land, and I create some fake documents or something. I mean, the land is still already recorded with the person who really owns it. So then how could the bad guy go and sell that land and actually have a sale go through and not have it be found that there was somebody else who's the owner of that property?
Because people can fake deeds. They'll go to the county and they'll make a fake deed and fake the owner's signature. So then on
Okay.
our side, when we run title on it and we see they just sold it last week, they sold it to John Smith. And now we have a contract with John Smith selling it to somebody else. So our due diligence is that we have to verify, one, that the seller really is who they say they are. So we have a lot of steps and processes that will go with that. If we start to get like bad feelings with it, then we'll reach out to our other title company here. We both keep a list of fraudulent properties that agents have told us about, and we coordinate with each other and make sure like this property is not on that list or anything. If we get weird feelings about it, we'll physically send a letter to the person's property, like the most recent address. It's with the tax assessor's page, and we'll get them in the letter. Will say, please verify you are who you say you are. Reach out to us if you're actually trying to sell your property. And it works. We've had lots of sellers call us and be like, I'm not trying to sell my property. Like, this is fake.
Wow.
And from there, we'll tell them, like, look, this is what's happening. This is who we got it from. Typically, we'll report those things to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and they can take it from there. They have a whole fraud department, and they're really good at that stuff. Um, but it happens everywhere, and it seems to come in waves, and it won't just be here. It'll be the same person trying to fraudulently sell property in Summit or in Aspen or in Bryan County. It could be the same person in multiple locations at any given time.
Oh, wow. So we're definitely not immune to that up here. I mean, you see it happen up here.
No, yeah, we
Yeah.
see it happen fairly often. Like I said, with vacant land, and if you don't have a mortgage on the property, it's a lot easier because then, as a title company, like we would have to get a payoff for your loan, and if we see that you have a mortgage on title, they're not going to go after those ones. They're harder to do. They're going to go after the people that bought them as cash, that don't live in Colorado, that are vacant owners. So yeah,
Right. Wow. That's kind of scary. That
hmm
whole concept, right? Somebody trying to just take your property away from you. And
yep.
yeah,
Now,
I mean,
if that
go ahead.
if that did happen, that's why you have title insurance, because they're going to fix
Oh,
everything for you.
okay. So that's there you go. That's one use of the title insurance.
Yep,
Um,
yep. So if you have fraud happen, title will help you.
okay. So another question then, when a deal is put together and we have a buyer, we have a seller, does the buyer actually get an option as to what company you guys might issue a policy through, or is that completely up to you guys?
No, they definitely have an option for it if they have some sort of preference with a particular company and we write title insurance through that company. Sure, absolutely, we'll write it on them.
Well,
But
so like me as a buyer, let's say, like why would I care between this insurance company, that insurance company? Are all policies created equal?
they're usually all pretty much the same. Yes, they all cover you for the sales price that you bought the property at. Um, we're going to if somebody doesn't have a particular affinity for a company, we're going to pick the one that has the best pricing for that particular property and sales price. So if one title insurance company is $2,500 per policy, but then another policy is 1,500, then we're going to tell you like, look, we're going to issue a commitment on this company and it's this price, and it would have been this price had we used another company. I mean, it's very similar to shopping for car insurance or homeowners insurance. All the policies are pretty much the same. It just depends on, what the pricing is. We're going to try and get you the best price for your property.
So you guys as like brokers, I guess you are, right? For different insurance companies. Um, what makes you decide to pick one company versus another? Is it mostly price?
Mostly price, typically. If the property has any weird things going on with it, we may have had a relationship with another insurance company that has dealt with this before, that has agreed to insure it already. We deal with some stuff in some of the towns that have nuances with them that other particular companies have already agreed, and they already know about these things that might be an issue to another company. So we'll write on that one because they're already familiar with everything that's going on. It really just
Okay.
depends on the property and the location, but mostly we're usually trying to just get you the best price for the policy, unless there's a weird scenario going on.
Okay. Okay. Um, Tell me something about title insurance that I don't know. Some odd fact, something weird, something I don't know. Is there anything come to mind that you want to be like you wouldn't believe what goes on with title insurance or whatever?
Um, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
It's pretty cut and dry, huh?
It's pretty cut and dry. Yeah, there's not a whole lot, honestly, that goes into it. The policy part is pretty easy usually. It's the closing process that has the hiccups and the changes and an inspection happens and then this has to change all of a sudden. It's that side of it that pops up with the weird stuff. Title insurance it's pretty much title insurance.
Yeah. So you mentioned inspections, and for those of you who don't know, I own a couple local businesses, Tiger Home Inspections and Tiger Radon Mitigation. So obviously, I'm in the home inspection space. How does a home inspection affect title insurance, or does it?
It doesn't it affect the insurance side of it. We usually won't even get a copy of the inspection. I don't need a copy of the inspection. An agent will typically just send us an inspection resolution with the contract that says, the seller will fix this, or they'll give a credit, or whatever they've agreed to proceed
Okay.
with the contract. But yeah, unless there's like, they have to give us backup for like some huge water leak or something like that, then we usually don't get copies of them.
Okay. So
But the
really, the inspection doesn't really affect title insurance all that much.
No, it won't affect your insurance policy. It'll just affect the contract itself. But the same kind of goes for appraisals with lenders too. We don't get copies of appraisals. If you ever needed a copy of one, then you have to go to your lender for it.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I mean, I think we've really covered quite a bit of title insurance talk today. I know a lot more about it than I did before. Um, how can people find you if they need any help with title insurance at all?
Yeah, so you can go to our website. It's just titlecorockies.com. Google us. My email is mray@titlecorockies.com. You can reach out to me anytime. I'm pretty available. And if I can't help you, then I definitely have people that can.
Okay. And so if I'm buying a house though, let's say, am I out shopping for the title insurance or a title insurance company myself, or is most of that kind of handled maybe through my realtor?
So most of it is usually handled with your realtor. If you have a specific request for a company, you can definitely tell your agent, like, I want to use this company. Most of the time here in Colorado, the seller and the seller's agent choose the title insurance company. Um, it really comes down to who is paying for the title insurance. So if the seller is paying for insurance, then the seller gets to choose. But if the buyer is paying for it, then the buyer gets to choose. But yeah, most of it is done through your agent. They can definitely give you some references as to companies that you can use. Um, we're all pretty good in Summit County. We all work in a really small community, so we know each other. But yeah, your agent will do most of that for you. But if you have a preference, feel free to tell them for sure.
Okay, great. Well, is there anything we haven't covered that you were maybe hoping we would have, or something you want to get out about title insurance? Let's make it extreme. You got any extreme last things about title insurance for us?
Nothing really extreme, no. Just be part of the process. Be communicative when you're buying a home. I mean, it's a huge investment. It's the biggest investment you're going to make. So if we're reaching out to you for information, we typically need it pretty quickly. So the faster you can get us what we need, the faster we can get you in your home and you can be in there loving it.
Okay, great. Well, this has been really informative. I know I've learned a lot. Really didn't know a whole lot about title insurance before, so I really appreciate you talking to us and telling us about it and kind of relating it back to our local community as well. So Really appreciate it, Mallory. I've loved having you on. This has been really informative.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, I guess we'll see you next time we buy a house.
Yeah. We'll see you at the closing table.
Yeah, right.
Or maybe
Awesome.
not.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. Things are getting kind of expensive too, so we'll
Yeah,
see.
right.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much, Mallory. We appreciate it. And if you guys need anything, contact Mallory at Title Company of the Rockies. Thanks so much, Mallory.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed that interview and learned a little bit about title insurance. I know I did. And it's not a real exciting topic, but it's an important topic. So thanks, guys, for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like.